Math 2, Unit 7, Worksheet 3 solutions, 1 through 14. All right, so find the value of each trigonomic ratio in reduced fraction form. So the tangent of A, here's our reference angle. It would be, tangent would be opposite over adjacent, or 16 over 12, which reduces to 4/3. And that's all we needed there on number 1. Number 2, the sine of x. That's our reference angle. Sine is opposite over hypotenuse. You see me drawing those arrows. I'm hoping you will do the same. So that is 21 over 36. 35, thank you, which reduces to 3/5. Cosine of C. Reference angle, cosine is adjacent over hypotenuse. And sometimes you guys have a question, well, how do I distinguish between adjacent and hypotenuse? Well, I like to use this little right angle symbol here. If you put a line and make that an arrow, it'll always point towards the hypotenuse. So adjacent, hypotenuse. So the sine of C is 32 over 40, which reduces to 3/5. Questions on 1, 2, or 3? Roth, you with us? All right, moving on to 4, 5, and 6. Find the value of each trigonomic ratio in decimal form, round to the nearest tenth. All right, so now we're doing basically the same thing, but we want to put it in decimal form. Find the value of each trigonomic ratio. So the cosine of A is our reference angle. Cosine is adjacent over hypotenuse. So 36 over 45. Take my calculator here. 36 divided by 45 is 0.8. All right, the sine of x, sine is opposite over hypotenuse, so it is 24 over 30. In my calculator, 24 divided by 30 equals 0.8 again. And finally, the tangent of A. Tangent is opposite over adjacent, so that is 32 over 24, which is 32 divided by 24, 1.33, rounded to the nearest tenth, 1.3. Questions on 4, 5, or 6? Yes?
On number 3, wouldn't it be 4/5 and not 3/5?
Well, I didn't reduce, but
On number 3.
3. Cosine of adjacent over hypotenuse, so 32 over 40. Oh yeah, of course. Thank you. Very good. Yes, 4/5. Thank you very much. Okay, number 7. Find the missing side, round to the nearest tenth. Okay. So our reference angle is the angle we're given. And what do we know? We know the opposite, or we're looking for the opposite, and we know the hypotenuse. So the opposite over hypotenuse is sine. So the sine of 50 equals x over 16. When the variable is on top, we cross multiply. 1 times x is x. 16 times the sine of 50 is simply, I just write it like it is, 16 times the sine of 50. Bringing in my calculator, 16 sine 50, 12.25. We're supposed to be rounding the nearest 10, so x equals 12.3. Number 8. All right, our reference angle is right here. What do I know? Well, I'm looking for the adjacent, and I know the hypotenuse. That is cosine. So it is the cosine of, is that 69? 69 equals x over 17. We will cross multiply because x is on top. 1 times x is x. 17 times the cosine of 69 is simply 17 cosine 69. Put that into our calculator. 17 cosine 69. Enter. 6.09. Rounding off to the nearest tenth, 6.1. Questions on that one? Okay, let's move on to number 9. Again, step 1, find your reference angle. And then step 2, find the sides that are involved. In this case, opposite and adjacent. That's tangent. So the tangent of 54 equals 14 over x. Okay, so this is a new one we haven't done yet. When your variable is on the bottom of your ratio. I told you a little trick you could do, save you some time. Back from a unit or two ago, when we have a proportion, I showed you that you can switch the two extremes without changing the value. We call it the old switcheroo. So I'm going to switch the x and tangent 54 to get x equals 14 divided by the tangent of 54. And now that's something we can plug right into our calculator. I like to use this fraction button. So I go 14, fraction button, tangent of 54, and I get 10.17, or x equals 10.2. Questions on number 9? All right, let's see. Number 10. Again, at 1, I find my reference angle. 2, I figure out what sides I have involved, which is opposite over hypotenuse. So that is sine. So the sine of 48 equals 14 over x. All right, x is my denominator, so I want to use the old switcheroo. So I'm going to switch sine 48 and x to get x equals 14 divided by the sine of 48. Okay, plugging that into the calculator. It's simply 14, my fraction button, sine 48, and, whoops, that's not right. Sine of 48, enter 18.8. Okay? All right, moving on to number 11. Step 1, identify your reference angle. Step 2, identify what's involved. Opposite, hypotenuse. So step 3, identify the trig function. That's sine of 64 equals 13 over x. Okay, now we've got it set up. We just need to know, do we cross multiply or use the switcheroo? When the variable's on the bottom, we use the switcheroo. X equals 13 divided by the sine of 64. Plugging that into our calculator. Now, some of you don't have that fraction button, so you simply go the 13. So we got to be a little careful. Divided by the sine of 64. And we should be there, 14.5. Questions on how I did that one? That's if you don't have a fraction button. Okay, I'll do that again. All right, so identify the reference angle. What parts do we know? Okay, well, we know the opposite and adjacent. That's tangent of our reference angle equals x over 11. Okay, this is a cross multiply one. So 1 times x is x. 11 times the tangent of 46 is 11 times the tangent of 46. Okay, so it is simply 11 tangent 46. Enter 11.39, or x equals 11.4. Questions on that? Okay, moving on. Reference angle, opposite hypotenuse. So the sine of 33 equals x over 19. I will cross multiply to get x equals 19 times the sine of 33. 19 times the sine of 33 equals 10.3. Okay, last one. Looks like it's the tangent of 33 equals x over 11, which means x equals 11 times the tangent of 33. .14 or 7.1. All right, questions on that? All right, perfect. Let's go on to, we're going to go on to worksheet 7.4, so let's start with the notes. So turn to right here, inverse trig and angle of elevation and depression. And you can go right to here.
Wait, what about this?
We're going to come back and do that a little bit later. Probably for you guys, probably tomorrow. Okay? All right.
We have a test tomorrow, don't we?
No. You have a test not until the week you come back.
Oh, I think we have a test tomorrow for some reason.
Okay. So guys, this is why it's important to get a pretty good handle on this stuff now, because remember, we're going to learn something today. We're going to learn something tomorrow. We're going to take a quiz on Friday. We're going to come back and learn something on Monday after break, Tuesday after break, review, and take the test. So we got about a whole week between what we're doing now and what we're doing after break. So if you don't have this down pretty well, you could struggle a bit when we come back. Okay, here we go.